Hello everyone, my name is Robin Dolezal. With me as always is Alex Pars and David Rezi. Together we are with Ironwood Financial. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. Today we're actually going to talk about, are you retiring too late? Alex, we've actually had a lot of people come in and talk to us about, their retirement plans, and, they're almost too conservative, right? They come in and they've actually done a decent job of saving, and then they tell us what they spend, tell us sometimes they'll have pensions and whatnot, and we run projections for them, and we're like, I don't know why you feel like you have to wait another 5 years to retire. You could retire now based on what you're telling us.
Right, and there's a lot of nuance that goes into it, but it is something we see all the time with dedicated savers, people who are planning to retire and been working on that for 30 or 40 years. I mean, as opposed to the people who are like, oh, I'm 55, it's time to start. So there's definitely a type of person who we see quite frequently, more frequently than you would think, who is retiring too late.
So a good example of waiting too long is Alex and I had a client who was waiting to get to 70 for that big Social Security payment, right? That pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And he had all of these travels plans, and he was gonna buy a new truck and get an RV and travel the country. And what ended up happening is, unfortunately, a year into his retirement, he got cancer and he didn't make it very long. And so the important thing is, hey, there's a ton of things that you can always have more money, you can't have more time. And so if you are chasing that large Social Security payment or the ideal retirement, it is important to run projections to say, hey, maybe that ideal retirement is today. Maybe you can still accomplish all of your goals with the money you currently have. And that making your account grow just for the bigger number isn't necessarily the best option for you.
It's the hardest decision that we've always said this in the past, that one of the hardest decisions for someone to make is when to pull the trigger and retire. But if you haven't actually done the planning or gone through the projections, you're never going to know.
And that's, it is also a retiree's biggest fear, which is where I think this problem comes from of retiring too late is, am I going to run out of money? That's a number one fear we see. But what would you estimate? About half of our clients hardly touch their money, let alone worry about running out of it. So they could have retired years earlier and it had more time to enjoy their retirement. So it is a problem that we see quite frequently, and it is something that's you can fix if you want by just quitting early. So in order to be able to solve this problem, so retirees' biggest fear is running out of money, which often leads people to work too long to, as David mentioned, try to get that bigger Social Security payment. And then it turns out that between their pensions and Social Security and other income sources, they don't end up even touching their retirement savings. So you saved all this money so that, and you didn't fly first class so that your kids can fly first class. I love telling people that. It's absolutely true, by the way, that if you don't fly first class, your children will. So we see it all the time, right? So retiring late is something that you can fix by using the proper projections. And so a lot of people, they run out there and they do projections and they say, okay, this is how much I'm going to spend and this is how much I'm going to spend the next year. And maybe they went so far as to include inflation, and they just have that, ramping up throughout their life, 70s, 80s, 90s. I'm spending $500,000 a year when I get to age 90 because of inflation. Okay. Well, that's not how it works, right? So, David, what do we usually see?
I think in most cases you see there's a ramp up. Once you retire, hey, you want to go on that Viking European cruise and you want to do the Alaskan cruise, and then you want 5 countries and fill your passport up. And then after that, people generally like to garden, or they pick up a low-cost hobby and they sit at home when they're too tired to leave. And then they get busy with grandkids, or we'll say day trips, but nobody actually wants to go and spend lots of money. They kind of just want to sit at home, watch the news and watch evening television, have a nice dinner, and that's it.
You mean stay home and yell at the news?
My grandmother actually throws cat toys at the TV.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you just said it. And I just had the same conversation with a client, and I don't know where I heard this or picked it up from, but it makes complete sense. As a retiree, when you first retire, you're in your go-go years. As you just said, you're doing all those travels that you didn't do. Then it's the slow-go years. Now you're saying, I'm so sick of traveling. I just want to stay at home and, like you said, tend to the garden or whatever it is, watch the grandkids. And then you do get into your no-go years, unfortunately. I'm dealing with this right now with my grandmother, who's, she's not spending any money on anything with the exception of, living and housing, because she just doesn't have the energy or the health to do anything, aside from that. So Alex, you're right as well. You're not going to continue to spend that money, and it's not just going to continue to increase all the way through your retirement. So again, go through those projections.
And I think that something that's important to note is these projections can also help you if you're not currently ready to retire. So it'll give you that, hey, how much longer do I have? Where's the finish line? I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Am I ready? And in some cases, we've seen it where, hey, you tell somebody you can retire yesterday. The next time your boss gives you a hard job, tell them no. And they end up working for 10 more years just because they enjoy it. So if you enjoy your job, we're not trying to talk you out of it. However, most people, the reason why they pay them is to show up. So I don't know anyone who wants to work forever.
Oh yeah. On the flip side of that, for those folks who are wanting to retire, maybe it's sooner than average, I guess. I don't know if that even makes sense. Is to think about your expenditures and don't forget things like healthcare, right? If you're trying to retire at age 50 or 55, and you get off of your plan, make sure that you realize that Medicare is not going to be picked up until age 65, and that's going to be an expense that you need to think about.
And that's one of the big advantages that we have. As professionals who've been looking at this for the last 20 years, we've seen all these different scenarios. I mean, you get to retire once, hopefully. And then you're done. Okay. So you haven't gone through this. And the first time you go through something, it's always a little questionable. We've got not just the experience of having guided hundreds of people through retirement, but also we have the advanced planning tools that, a lot of people go to the free calculator on the website. Well, the free calculator on the website doesn't have all the nuances. It doesn't have all the options, all the scenarios that we can run. So we've got a lot of advantages in our projections that, other people that you don't have on your own. So that's one of the things that's, makes this process so rewarding is we can do much more detailed projections. We can throw a scenario in. We can say, what happens if we have long-term care? What if I want to do a one-time trip? What if I want to gift some money to kids? All the things that our clients constantly ask us about, we can show you what the ramifications will be. And then we can run, projections based off that. So it's really, a great, fact-finding thing. People come in, and after they run through this, they're often very surprised by what we come up with.
I agree, Alex. I think a lot of people actually enjoy going through that, and they find that they probably will be able to retire, but sometimes they even find that they didn't think of things, so the exercise is beneficial regardless of what we come up with. Go ahead, David.
And I think is one of the things that Alex mentioned is those projections help you live a more fulfilling life in a sense that you can also maybe give some early gifting. Some of the situations that we've seen where people have a big pile of money and they think, oh great, if I last till 80, well, now your kids are in their 70s where, hey, if you give a big gift when they're 30 or 40, it may be a lot more meaningful and actually help them more in their life.
Well, I want to thank you, gentlemen. This has actually been a great topic. This is something that we talk about all the time with clients who come in. If you're watching this and you haven't gone through the exercise, and you'd like help with that, we're here to help. You can find us at ironwoodfinancial.com or reach us at 520-318-4600. This is something that we do for folks who are clients or not clients all of the time. We're happy to run through these projections for you. As Alex said, we throw in all sorts of different variables and find out. Data can only help you make those decisions. So thanks for watching. We'll see you at the next podcast. If you have any other topics that you want us to address in our next podcast, please don't hesitate to reach out. And until then, we'll see you next time.